You see, in this kind of a fight, the center of gravity is the civilian population. And if you drive them into the arms of the enemy, you replace a tactical victory with a strategic defeat. So I have repeatedly made clear to Israel's leaders that protecting Palestinian civilians in Gaza is both a moral responsibility and a strategic imperative. The United States will remain Israel's closest friend in the world. Our support for Israel's security is non-negotiable, and it never will be. And to make it crystal clear that America's commitment to Israel's security is ironclad. And so we have rushed U.S. security assistance to Israel to help it defend its people and its territory, and to help ensure that Hamas can never again commit the atrocities that we saw on October 7th.
Black smoke and drones above Gaza sometimes, and also explosion can be heard from time to time, most likely from Israeli artillery and airstrike pounding the Gaza Strip. All these indicate that the Israeli military operations are still going on in the northern Gaza Strip. As we move all the way along the border to the south, sirens of rocket attack all remind us of the fact that the Israeli Defense Forces reported to have intensified their attacks in the entirety of the Gaza Strip, not just in the north, but also the south, where many Palestinians have fled. And that has raised concern of a possible escalation of the already dire humanitarian crisis in the Gaza Strip. And the IDF says it is now using a special map to help Palestinian civilians in the Gaza Strip to receive updates, identify active combat zones, and move to safer locations. But there are also concerns over whether the Palestinians have access and are able to actually use this map to avoid attacks. From here, we're not able to move any further to the southern territory that was attacked from the air several times earlier in the day. As you can see, we're now in a kibbutz named Bari, which is one of the many border towns that were attacked by Hamas on the day of October the 7th. What I'm trying to say is that an important part of the Israeli government's goal is also to bring back the hostages from Gaza, which include some that were taken from this region. The Israeli government, they accused Hamas of violating ceasefire terms and not providing the hostages as agreed. At this moment, the uncertainty is still growing as time passes.
ايش في؟
نعمل جنبهم.
طولش هالبصة طولت انت كتير.
مين اللي تصوروا انتوا؟ במאס.
כדי להשלים את המשימה הקדושה של השבת כל חטופינו, כדי לחסל את החמאס. אנחנו קובעים כל הזמן בתיאום עם גורמים בינלאומיים וגם בתיאום עם ידידינו האמריקנים. אנחנו קווים אזורים בטוחים שהאוכלוסייה יודעת שהיא יכולה להתפנות לשם. עשינו את זה בצפון ואנחנו עושים את זה, נעשה את זה גם בזירות אחרות. זה חשוב לעשות כי אין לנו שום רצון לפגוע באוכלוסייה. יש לנו רצון להימנע מפגיעה באוכלוסייה, יש לנו רצון עז מאוד לפגוע בחמאס.
We announced that Our goal in this war is to totally destroy Hamas's governing and military infrastructure everywhere inside the Gaza Strip. And so as soon as the fighting wraps up in northern Gaza, we will continue to destroy all of Hamas's terror infrastructure in Gaza so they can never again hurt our people. We've published an evacuation map, evacuation routes towards safe areas, and we're urging civilians to continue going to these areas, and we're committed to continuing to work with international agencies to ensure the continuation of humanitarian aid, of food, of water, of medicine and shelter to the people of the Gaza Strip. We want all the aid to reach the people who need it in a way that makes sure Hamas cannot steal it.
It was a very intense overnight here in Gaza and also the early hours of this morning. Until now, it is almost afternoon here in Gaza. Continuous Israeli bombings in northern Gaza, in middle Gaza, and also in southern Gaza. We're talking sea, air, and land. According to the Israeli military, they actually targeted 400 raids in Gaza over the past 24 hours. Since the morning here at the hospital, many tens of ambulances. We're talking dozens of people that were killed, hundreds that were injured, mostly women and children.
Israeli warplanes and artillery bombarded Gaza on Saturday following the collapse of a truce with Hamas militants. Residents feared the barrages were a prelude to an Israeli ground operation in the south of the Palestinian territory that would pen them into a shrinking area and possibly try to push them across into Egypt.
As Israel defends itself, it matters how.
At the COP28 conference in Dubai, U.S. Vice President Kamala Harris said Israel had a right to defend itself, but needed to do more to protect civilians.
The United States is unequivocal. International humanitarian law must be respected. Too many innocent Palestinians have been killed. Frankly, the scale of civilian suffering and the images and videos coming from Gaza are devastating.
Mark Regev, a senior advisor to Israeli Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu, said Israel did not want to see Gaza's civilians caught in the crossfire.
We will do everything we can to keep Gazan civilians outside of the crossfire between the IDF and the terrorists, and we will do everything to facilitate that population receives water, medicine, food, shelter.
Regev said that when the war was over, Israel would seek a security envelope with special zones and arrangements to prevent Hamas from being positioned on its border. At a damaged building nearby, this man said, "My brother is gone, and his daughter gone too. What's left? Nothing is left. Look at it, nothing is left." The warring sides blamed each other for the collapse of the 7-day truce. During that time, Hamas released hostages in exchange for Palestinian prisoners held in Israeli jails. Israel said it had recalled a team from Qatar, the host of indirect negotiations with Hamas. It accuses the Palestinian faction of reneging on a deal to free all the women and children being held. The deputy head of Hamas, however, said no prisoners would be exchanged with Israel unless there is a ceasefire and all Palestinian detainees in Israel are released.